Hey there, Internet. My name's Luxander. Today, I'm going to paint my nails. If you want to, you can join me in painting your nails as well. And I have basically two things that I want to talk about while I'm doing that. One being kind of just touching base about the election, since it's over now, basically. And then I want to talk about the Unus Annus channel that just ended pretty recently. Nobody comment on how badly I need a haircut, and also that I haven't shaved. And my excuse for the latter is that it's No Shave November. TLDR, don't question me. So, the first thing that I want to talk about is the election and how it went. I have not refreshed my memory as of sitting down to make this video about the congressional results. I mostly just want to talk about the actual presidential election. Oh, I forgot how thin this goes on. I might have to do 2 layers of color. Maybe I'll only do color with y'all, and then I'll do the clear coat on my own. It depends on how long it takes and how long our conversation goes. You know what I mean? I'm also going to warn you now, before I get too much into the conversation about politics and everything, I put on my nail polish pretty sloppily. And I just clean it up afterwards. I've had a friend suggest to me that I could use, like, Vaseline around the edges to keep things sort of contained, but I don't do that. Not really any good reason for it. I just don't. So I have, they always look really sloppy at first, and then I come in sometimes and clean them up with a Q-tip and nail polish remover afterwards. But sometimes I just like how it looks like shit. I don't know. Actually, my favorite type of having my nails cut, or having my nails painted, I should say, is when they start to chip off and stuff. So, not trying to be fancy. See what I mean? Not really caring about being fancy. Anyhow, so obviously I'm pretty enthused about the fact that Biden won the election. I voted for him. I live in a red state. My state still went red, although at first, and when the initial results were coming in, it was like, oh, Kansas is going to be blue, maybe, question mark. You know, that feeling where you're holding out on there being some Republicans in your red state who are, like, disgusted by, you know, the super un-American kind of things that our president has said and done. It didn't end up going that way for my state. For the country, however, the presidential election went okay. And the Trump administration is kind of freaking out, you know, threatening to sue a bunch of people, in the process of suing several states, from what I understand. And then you got Lindsey Graham being like, hey, can you please just not count these votes in, like, Georgia or whatever, which is all great. Anyway, but the point is, as a person who is part of a minority group, which is sometimes under attack, let's say, particularly by the current administration, like, let's not play around. There have been a couple of times where the Trump administration has attempted to literally remove civil rights from transgender people. And that is some very scary shit to have to deal with every day. It is a very intense thing to wake up in a country where you're not sure if you're going to lose the right to have a job. To be fair, the job thing didn't really have anything to do with the administration. It was a Supreme Court case. But, you know, still, having that be a question of whether you have a right to a job or whether you have the right to receive health care, those are very stressful things to have to sort of deal with on a regular basis. And I didn't like it very much, honestly. And, you know, to be obviously, things are not going to just drastically change overnight. We're going to have to continue to do work. We're going to have to continue to put pressure on Biden's administration to do the things that we want them to do. But ostensibly, they will be easier to convince to change their minds if we pressure them, if we're strategic about it. I think that it's going to be okay. For most people, at least. I am feeling a lot more secure about where I live than I did before. I don't know how to explain to someone who isn't asking these same questions, like, what it's like to have to say to yourself, like, I don't have a passport, and I don't know how applying for asylum works. You know what I mean? So anyway, those things were all pretty intense. I've got the first coat done. I'm going to do a little bit of this for a minute. I do this because... Let me do it away from the microphone. I do this because I don't want to get lightheaded blowing on my fingers. So I just kind of like wave them in the air for a little bit and try to get them to dry this way. At least dry well enough that I can put on a second coat. Because like I said, like, I don't know if you can tell really because of how intense that reflection of the light is, but like this is a really thin layer, especially on this finger. You can see it's not giving me very much coverage, so I'm gonna put on another layer of this. And basically just wanted to say about the election what I have said. I'm glad that it went the way that it went. I'm feeling a lot more secure about living in America still. All that stuff. Oh, and let's hope there's not a coup. That would suck. The other thing that I wanted to talk to y'all about is Unus Annus. So if you never watched Unus Annus, then I'm sorry, and it's too late for you to do that now. I will describe the premise. I'm sure some of you are familiar, but for those of you who aren't, probably most of you are not, I will explain the premise to you. So, YouTuber Markiplier, Mark Fishbach, and his friend Ethan Nestor from Crank Gameplays had an idea for a YouTube channel where they would upload one video every day for 1 year. And at the end of that... Oh, shit. Nope, I fucked it up. Oops. Oopsie. I was resting my finger on my other finger and fucked up the paint. Oh, well. Happens to the best of us. So anyway, they made this channel, and the artistic intention of the channel was like, things don't last forever. Sometimes you have a limited amount of time to get things done. I mean, really, and it was kind of a metaphor about life in general. Like, you only have so much time before you die, and you need to relish things while you have them and take opportunities while you can. And when you miss things, sometimes you just miss them and you don't get a second chance. And sometimes when something ends, all you have left are the memories. So Unus Annus is a project that I was aware of from the very first day, because their first video went on trending. I think it even hit #1 on trending in November last year. And I have followed Markiplier for fucking years, like a forever, very long time. I watched Markiplier. And I like him a lot, and I really like a lot of the videos that he's done with Ethan before. They have a whole series on Mark's channel called Markiplier Makes, where they will do stuff like, you know, Mark asks the guys to come over for a couple hours and surprises them with, like, oh, we're gonna make creme brulee, and, like, compete, but we're not gonna use a recipe. Like, that's kind of usually the premise of Markiplier Makes. Just like, you know, we're gonna try this. We're not gonna use a recipe, and we're gonna have a time limit, and it's gonna be a competition. So that kind of stuff got me excited about Unus Annus, because I was like, I don't know what these guys are gonna do. I like them both. You know, it's gonna be fascinating. And what ended up happening that second day that Unus Annus uploaded a video was cooking with sex toys, where they went to a sex shop and bought a bunch of sex toys and used them as cooking utensils to make breakfast. It was ridiculous. It was silly. It was absurd. And it was everything I could have hoped for. So a lot of the content was like that. Where it was just kind of silly nonsense. But throughout, sometimes even within the silly videos, but several times they had a video dedicated to, like, hey, reminder, X amount of time has passed, or only X amount of time is left until the channel is over. And for me, it's been very affecting. I would say for a decent chunk of the year, I was watching each video as it came out on the day. Not every single video, and several times I took a few days of just like, I don't really feel like watching Unus Annus right now, and I would catch up on like maximum like a week's worth of videos. I never really went like more than a week without checking on the videos and at least catching up on a couple of them. So, you know, incorporating something into your daily routine for a whole year, or for mostly daily for most of a year, is a big thing. It's a large amount of space in your brain for something to be taking up, you know? It's part of why I was so upset about the end of Game of Thrones, because I had spent so much of my time thinking about it and being invested and theorizing, like, just so many hours of my life and so many days of the week, you know? So Unus Annus, I tried not to build too much of a habit with it, especially in this past couple months, because I knew it was going to end. I didn't want to get in a habit of, oh, I have a job now, so I can't watch a video when it drops, but I'll watch it as soon as I get home. I didn't want to do that, because I didn't want to have that routine disrupted at the end and have to be, like, extra upset about it. So it's interesting. I'm talking about being upset about this YouTube channel, and I wonder if maybe that's not going to scan very well. Like, it's not going to make sense very well, right? Because if you weren't part of it, I don't know if you're gonna be able to understand, like, these, like, silly bullshit videos. Like, yeah, so two things. First of all, the silly bullshit videos were a needed respite in this year. In the past, since the inception of Unus Annus, like, I have wanted to not be alive. Like, I'd never made any plans or anything, but I just wasn't feeling good, right? And that was before COVID. That was before the election. That was before all of the protests. So that's one reason why Unus Annus was really important to me personally and to many other people. The other big thing was that they did manage to keep that tone, as I mentioned, that seriousness, every once in a while, like in the through line of the channel. They're not necessarily going to draw attention to it during a video that is meant to be silly, but they will get you every once in a while. Like, they will remind you. I'm taking another break to do this for a minute, or just to let them sit here, because I can just talk and give my attention to y'all. The tagline of the channel is Remember Death, Memento Mori in Latin. They made it a point to mention pretty frequently, like, have you done the most with your time so far? And they had challenges during it. Like, in Unus Annus, they were like, we challenge you to practice one thing every day for this whole month, and then show at the end of the month, like, how you improved or whatever. And they did it themselves. Well, Mark did. He was learning how to juggle. But, like, after a certain amount of time, that you start to really think about it. Like, I mean, I definitely felt this way. I didn't necessarily incorporate that mentally fully until after the channel was over, which was really recently. So I'm recording this on Wednesday, and the live stream that they did signifying the end of the channel, and they deleted the channel live on stream, basically. That was this past Friday, so it hasn't even been a week yet. This is where I'm at so far on my nails progress. Looking pretty gnarly on this hand. Obviously, I'm not left-handed. Anyway, Mark has this history of trying to be a really supportive person toward his audience. Like, you know, he got to this point with his channel where he was getting too much correspondence to be able to reasonably keep up with it, and he has always tried, especially since then from what I remember, to be like, hey, you can do everything you want to do. Like, if you want to start a YouTube channel, you can do that. Just focus on, like, expressing yourself. And he acknowledges that it sounds pretentious, but he says, like, the thing that irks him the most, like, his pet peeve about other people, is, like, people not living up to their potential. Like, I think that Mark is genuinely a person who believes that other people can succeed, and, like, not like delusionally, not like, you know, oh, it doesn't matter what circumstances in life, just pick yourself up by your bootstraps. I mean, I think he just, like, sees a lot of potential in people and thinks that you are getting in your own way mentally, I think is probably a good way to put it. So that aspect of Mark as a person, which I have been familiar with for a long time, like, I think that I have a screenshot saved on my computer that says, that's titled, like, Mark believes in you. I didn't caption it. It's just a screenshot from a video where he's talking to the audience and being, like, emotional in a video or whatever. So anyway, so this is my history with Mark. I've known about him for a long time, and I've received these messages from him for a long time. And then fucking Unus Annus happens, and you get this, like, weird sense of, like, you love this silly channel and these silly boys and Amy behind the camera, and, like, you're you're invested in the canon, and some people were like theorizing that there was a secret like code. I didn't really mess with that. I thought it was kind of juvenile, but there's probably a lot of teenagers who watch Unus Annus, so I can't really fault them for being juvenile, can I? But all of that at the same time as being reminded this channel is going to be deleted, we are all going to die. And like they said it during the channel, like, we know how much time we have left because we have 1 year, and that's the sort of them speaking as their characters within the sort of universe of it. Like, we know exactly how much time we have left. And when they wrapped up, they were content with how they had spent that time. But we don't know how much time we have left. Like, we as individuals don't know when our time is up. And just asking that question of yourself, like, did I do the best that I could have with today? Did I accomplish everything I could have accomplished? You know, and like taking time to examine like what things are getting in the way of me being able to feel like that at the end of the day. All of that really hit me on Saturday morning. It's like I was at work on Friday and they started streaming at 2 p.m. my time. And I was like, listen, y'all, coworkers, I have this earbud on with this live stream. I've already mentioned this channel to y'all. I'm not going to be doing this all the time, but I'm listening to this while I'm working. My partner got into it like a few weeks ago. So we both listened to it and we both stayed up till 2 a.m. when the live stream was over, when they deleted the channel. That's a big deal for us right now because I wake up at 6 a.m. during the week. I like woke up at 6 a.m. on Friday and then stayed up until 2. It was really hard. But it mattered so much to me to be there, especially because I had been there since the very beginning, because it just felt like it was a necessary part of the experience. And yes, I'm going to get openly emotional in this video, apparently. I feel like the investment that the team put into it was like they really gave part of themselves to us for this experience. And it's a part that like they won't get back, and that they're not going to like have continued access to all of the stuff that they created during that time, because for them Unus Annus is over as well. I don't even know what their internal conversations have been about whether they're going to keep the original footage. You know what I mean? Like, it seems crazy to me to delete it, but I don't know. Mark is kind of cutthroat about these things. Who knows? But maybe the other people would have convinced him otherwise. But still, it's just like they gave so much to that, and then we in turn gave them so much of our emotional and mental investment, and we had memes together as a community, and when it ended, we all together were feeling and experiencing something, which I think is pretty abnormal when you're dealing with grief. I think when you're dealing with grief, it so often feels so isolated and like nobody could understand, because you know, it's your grandma or whatever. Like, nobody else can experience your grandma the way that you experienced your grandma. And nobody else can experience Unus Annus the same way that you did, but also, like, 4 million other people experienced it, like, in their own way. And like, we had this shared thing going on. And, like, in some ways, it was a lot more of a dialogue when it comes to the creators as well, because once you get to a certain point of millions of subscribers, like, you just don't pay as much attention. But they were like in the Reddit and stuff and challenging us to participate with them, and it just was this weird, it's like this weird collaborative emotional art piece, this incredibly public emotional art piece, that what it's built out of, like, what the art is this. It's all the people who feel like irrationally in love with this thing that you had to be there. Like, it's such a pretentious thing to say, but that's part of the whole thing. The fact that some people missed out on it and didn't hear about it until the last day, or until, like, when I was tweeting about it earlier today and someone learned about it, like, the fact that you missed out was part of the point too. Like, if you had a chance to be there every day, that was one part of the art of it. You know, if you watched in the beginning and then decided you didn't care, that's part of the art of it. If you discovered it 3 weeks before the end and now you're about to get an Unus Annus tattoo. Like, that was part of it too. The fact that you're gonna see like so many out of context memes, like you're gonna see pictures of Markiplier and of Ethan, and you're not gonna know where they came from because it's from a channel that got nuked. That is my pinky all done up in the clear coat to protect the paint. I also just want to say that I'm really glad that the election went the way that it did so that I could really give that last week to Unus Annus. I was able to give that time to Unus Annus and like to myself, sort of like give myself that time with Unus Annus to transition. And I think that them as a team, like the videos really shifted gears those last couple weeks. Like I think they did as well as they could have to help everyone who was part of the project transition into it being over, which is so unique because you don't usually get that opportunity when you lose something. You don't usually, sometimes with like cancer, but even then you don't have a set date. You're not like for sure this person is going to die at this time, so you can plan for it in that way. It was really interesting and unique, and I think that it was really good because they wanted everyone to understand, like, yes, this is really going to get deleted. We want you to be able to walk through your stages of grief, however that works for you, and be ready to just accept it when it comes. I'm talking about the ending of a channel, but really it sounds like you're talking about death because in a way you are. So I guess in a way this is my contribution to the art project that was Unus Annus, making my reaction very public. I tweeted about it like the night of as well, maybe in the next day. This absurd experimental weird project meant a whole lot to me, and it meant a whole lot to a whole lot of people, I think. And I'm glad that I was here to experience it, especially glad that I was here the whole year, because I feel like I got to be part of something that probably is not ever going to happen again. At least won't happen in the same way. It won't be from creators who I already loved and trusted. You know, I'm not really ever worried about what did Mark do, you know. And honestly, I've come to appreciate Ethan a lot more. It's not that I disliked Ethan before. I liked him. That's part of why I've rewatched all of Markiplier Makes multiple times, because I love their dynamic, and that's why Unus Annus worked so well, because they have a good dynamic with each other. But I've just also really come to appreciate him as a person during this whole thing, and I think he's grown a lot, and I really think that he should make a short film. I agree with Mark about that. Whoever edited the truth of Unus Annus, like, they need to work with that person to make a horror movie, because that would be lit. And on Saturday, I'm gonna wrap up talking about this because I'm done painting my fingernails, basically. On Saturday, the day after the stream and the day after the channel was finished, I basically just spent 2 hours, like, sitting here in this position. I had headphones on probably, but I wasn't listening to anything. I was just sitting here processing, because it was an opportunity for me to decide how I'm going to handle death and how I'm going to handle grief. Like, there's one aspect of it that's like, oh, I'm curious how I'm going to react because I'm not sure how I'm going to react. But I also want to take moments like that to choose how I'm going to respond and not just be carried by my emotions through whatever the situation is. And it was also, I just spent like a lot of time reflecting on those things that Mark especially would say throughout the channel, of just like, did you do your best with the time you had? The clock is always ticking. You have to use your time wisely. And I'm kind of like, I think I want to incorporate that into my daily, like, thought processes and practices. Just like, once the evening starts to come up, I just be like, did I do the best I could have done today? I have a job where I work 10 to 12 hour days sometimes. So, 10 hour days is actually standard. If I work less than 10 hour days, that's a short day. So, like, if I work a whole day and I come home and I don't really do a lot, like, am I still content with that day? I'm going to have to square that up with myself. I'm going to have to decide whether I'm okay with that, or whether, like, in order for me to feel satisfied as a human being, if I have to, I'm going to continue working on stuff around the house even though I'm tired. Or how many different creative projects have I thought of and then set aside? I have done that a lot, and I want to be different, I think. I think that Unus Annus has made me realize that I want to do things differently, and that I can, and that I have to. If I want to achieve things that I want to achieve, if I want to feel a certain type of way about myself and about my achievements, I have to be able to do things differently. I have to try, at least, to do things in a way that will make me feel like I did. Like during the year of Unus Annus, during the Unus Annus, I would say overall, I feel like I did adhere to that, because not necessarily every day individually, but during the time of Unus Annus, I had already started school, and I did really well. Like, I just got to give myself credit. I did really well in school. And then I graduated, I got with a certificate, and I got a job in my field. And I'm having a great time, basically. I'm fucking exhausted, but I'm having a great time. We all have to decide what the most optimal use of our time is. No one can tell you, yeah, you need to do this, you need to do that. I'm just gonna smear my goddamn nail polish everywhere, apparently, is how today's gonna go. No one can tell you what an optimal use of your time is. You're the only person who can say, yeah, I feel like I succeeded today, or no, I feel like I'm fucking drowning today. And you have to be able to figure out what to do next and how you want to approach the next day. Like, even when shit is on fire, even when you're, like, worried about losing your fucking civil rights, you have to be able to wake up and look ahead at the day and meet it where it is. So the boys are never going to see it, and probably Amy and the editors and everybody will probably never see this video, but I thank them all for giving this to us. And for me, like, it wasn't for me, but I'm thankful for it. And I hope that I can make Big Papa proud by continuing to make efforts in my personal life to pursue things that I want to pursue, and hopefully live up to whatever my potential is. And I hope that other people will maybe think about it too. I really am curious how many teenagers were, like, schooled on like, accepting grief and passing and stuff, because, wow, a lot of y'all were on the copium, even up to the very end. So I'm gonna stop talking now. Thank you all so much for watching. You can subscribe and leave comments and like the video if you want to. Ring the bell to get notified when I upload, because it's not going to happen crazy often. And I hope you have an okay day. Memento Mori. I would like to thank my patrons for their support in the month of November, especially Sean, Tina M., Frozen Summers, Michelle Winter, R. Halverson, Sarah A., Suzanne Maynard, Wellington Marcus, Amanda B., Athiette, Elizabeth Bartell, Mr. Atheist, and Rose Above It showing up.